The following program is paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management, providing financial advice since 1993. At Lifespan Wealth Management, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience, and you can learn more about them by visiting their website at retirerelax.com. While you're on the site, visit the special report section, which provides great financial education information on many different topics. You can also sign up to receive their digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money. They also offer seminars to the community at no cost. If you're looking for a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give them a call to discuss the topics you would like them to cover. Again, their contact number is 478-922-8100. Now, from the Macon studio of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, Jonathan Eisner, and Corey Albrecht.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I've seen more prospective clients in the last year than I've seen in a while, so I wanted to talk about this. If you've been listening to this show, you already know that we actively manage our clients' fee accounts with an eye toward avoiding large losses. For years, these prospective clients have been automatically adding money to their 401ks, and when the market is down, while they're contributing, they buy more shares of the funds they are invested in. But once you hit retirement age and are depending on this money as an income stream, that changes everything. They cannot afford to lose money while taking money out to live on. So, Randy, talk about how you manage the portfolios.
Sure. I manage the clients' accounts with an eye towards avoiding the large losses. And, once a person retires, they are dependent upon this money for income. Knowing that someone is watching the holdings on a daily basis gives them a little peace of mind. I have trailing stops on the holdings, and I have a computer screen that is up all day long, and it actively shows me what the holdings are doing. And over the past year, there's been a lot of volatility, and I'm sure you've seen the stuff on the news, just read a lot of days. A lot of that's due to tariffs and the shifting investment sentiment. Let me give you a couple of examples that we've actually gone through. We're invested in a holding called GDX, which is Junior Gold Miners, and it's done pretty well since we purchased it. However, precious metals are retracting since inflation is spiking again, and this seems counterintuitive, but the markets are anticipating interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve to combat the rising prices. And there's a high probability of that. Definitely no cuts on the horizon. See, higher interest rates increase the opportunity cost of holding a non-yielding asset like gold, while also strengthening U.S. dollar makes gold more expensive for foreign buyers and reducing demand. So this will probably mean that we need to shed this holding in our portfolio to protect the gains. Another example is one we executed this week. Our research found the XLI and XLF, which are two State Street SPDR ETFs, one covering industrials and the other one covering financials. Our research showed that these two ETFs are historically highly correlated, meaning that they rise and they fall together. And they have rarely become uncorrelated, but when they do, it is not good for XLF. And right now, this has begun to occur. Since we owned both funds, we proceeded selling all of the XLF holding to protect against the potential large losses that could occur in the very near future with XLF.
Randy, before I talk about something, there's a term you mentioned there that maybe could use some explaining, and that is trailing losses, trailing stops.
Basically, when you buy a holding, you put in every stock has a different threshold, and risk. And in some software, it's called the volatility quotient, and that would be the risk. But let's just say you bought a stock, and it's $100 stock, and it goes up to 110, and you had a 10% trailing stop with it. It goes up with that 110, and if it starts retracting 10%, then you want to sell it then. So you're still up when you sell it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So a stop loss in general is, hey, this is the point at which I'm getting out of this stock.
That's right.
You get in at $100. Let's say it's 10% right out of the gate. It goes to 90. You're out.
That's right.
If it goes up to 120, Now your trailing stop loss, if it's still set at 10%, is $12 down from 120.
That's right.
Right? So at 108, you're out and you lock in your profits of $8.
That's right.
Okay. Got it. I work with more pre-retirees than retirees. So Sherry and I complement each other well in that regard. But more of my clients are still in accumulation years, we call it, which means they're still building toward their retirement. I had a client this week say that, well, obviously this is a bad time to be putting more money into my accounts.
What?
He's 46. Still a lot of years of working left ahead of him, but he's very risk averse. I said, nope. Actually, in your position, this is a great time to be funding your accounts. You don't want to only be buying when things are up and more expensive. You want to be buying when they're down also, so that when they do go back up, ultimately, you're in a better position with your holdings.
Yeah, when shoes go on sale, you go buy them then, right?
Right.
Same thing.
It is. It is essentially the same thing if you have time on your side.
That's right.
If you have time on your side. So we've constructed our riskier portfolios. We have several different options for portfolio risk, but we've constructed them in such a way that allows for more breathing room to the downside. In other words, those stop losses that Randy was talking about on the riskier portfolios. Generally, our younger clients are willing to take more risk, and many of them are still actively funding their accounts. So with those folks, stocks being down is many times actually an opportunity, and Sherry talks about that a lot, about buying stocks at a discount. So you ask what I've noticed over the past year. To this point, not a whole lot has been different for me and my clients from the norm. We have had clients commonly ask us about AI stocks and trends, et cetera. We feel like we are very much on top of that and giving our clients the appropriate amount of exposure to that. But other than that, a lot of my clients are sticking to the plan.
Very good.
Yeah, and let me jump back in just for a second. When a new client comes on board or an existing client adds more money to their account, we don't just stick all the money in at one time. I look for the days when the stocks are on sale. So it may take a little bit longer to get all the money in the market, but I don't like just, you can say, I'm going to dollar cost average it in every day, but if that stock is always up,
Yeah, right.
you're always buying it at the high end. So,
Right.
So I always look for the days that the stocks go on sale.
We try to be as strategic as possible.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's just a level of comfort that having your account actively managed provides. A lot of the people that I talk to are coming from a large investment firm, and they can't even get a call back from an advisor when they have questions about their account. They question the fact that if they can't even talk to people looking over their account because of how busy they are, how much attention are they actually paying to their accounts? If you can't even get them on the phone with your advisor, at a minimum, get a call back in a timely manner, then maybe it's time to look for an advisor that will pay attention to them. We meet with our clients at least once a year to review how we are investing their money, and they can call us anytime if they have any questions about the market, their portfolios, or other financial concerns that they may have.
Let me jump back in again. Just this morning, we had a client call us and that, his income taxes were not where he thought they should have been. And so as soon as we're done, we're going to be talking to their CPA because we know that what the CPA did is not correct. So that's how involved we get.
Very good. So we spend a lot of time with our portfolios and with our clients. And if you are not receiving the level of care you think you deserve, I encourage you to take an hour of your time and come visit us to see what we do. We don't charge for the visit, and you might pick up some good information in the process. And on your point, Randy, I just had a call with a client for about 40 minutes. She was really concerned about the market and what we're doing and what's going on in her account. And she's only 50% in the market, and she didn't realize that. And so she's watching the news and just in a panic mode. And I talked her down off the cliff, and she's fine.
Good.
So anyways, shifting gears. More and more of my clients are talking about having a family meeting. For some, it's because they want their beneficiaries to know where their important documents are stored and how to get to them. For others, it's because they feel strongly about what they want them to do when they die. I have had more clients than ever tell me they want to be cremated, and that's it. No flowers, no party unless the family wants one, and to just keep it simple. One of their biggest concerns is that they don't want their kids to just spend this money on a bigger house or a new car or expensive trips. They want to share how they were able to save this much money and the habits that helped them do this.
Yep. When we got married, we got into the habit of setting yearly goals and tracking our progress. And once we had kids and they were old enough to contribute to a meeting, we started having family meetings every Sunday night to talk about what we plan to cook for that week and to get their feedbacks and ideas. We also talked about the grades they received on the school works from the previous weeks, and they loved that,
I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you picked up that sarcasm.
Accountability.
Yeah. And whether the kids needed to spend more time on their homework, which they always did. And we would talk about the sports events that they were all involved in, and we all contributed to these meetings. And it was especially important when I had that job in the military where I would fly out of town every Monday morning and get back home every Friday night. And the family meetings all helped us all stay on the same page. And it was just a great time, too.
It was great.
How old were your kids when you started having these meetings?
Oh, gosh.
Grade school.
Yeah.
Okay. Elementary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
they were pretty young, but they liked contributing to what we were going to have for dinner. They liked having the input,
Being part of the
involved in that.
conversation.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, I'm not at the point or in the position to be running a family meeting, but the closest I have is our family dinner. Each night we have a family dinner with my parents and brothers where everyone is at the table, at least everyone at home that night.
And you're all looking at your phones, right?
No. We just have a small discussion about our day, how it went, any upcoming events, and anything like that. That may be the point is that there may be a point in the day that this may be the point in the day.
The only point.
The only point in the day that we see each other.
Yeah.
So it's pretty important that we get it done. It's great to just have everyone together and have the opportunity to discuss things that are on our minds, and especially to talk about any concerns that we have.
Yeah, you'll probably pick up this kind of meeting when you do have kids and a wife, and you'll enjoy
You'll keep the
sitting around.
habit.
It's a nice tradition to
It is.
have.
Yes.
It is.
They're excellent.
Well, I'll echo Corey because the closest thing I've got to what you guys are talking about is our dinner time. I mean, that's really the only time in my house that we all are together at the same time. A lot of nights because there are 6 of us and there are a lot of things happening at any given time. There's a lot of times lately that each of the 4 of my kids needs to be at a different place at the same time.
I don't know how I juggle all that.
So my almost 17-year-old, he can get himself places now, so that's fine. But the other 3, we'll have to recruit a grandparent or, Anyway, so dinner time's usually that time for us. And Katie and I are still mostly doing the weekly planning, logistics, meals, etc. Our oldest son, again, almost 17, definitely use him to help get people where they need to be.
I love that. I hear it from a lot of clients that when they meet for a meal, all the young people at the table are just staring at their phones. We had a rule of no phones at meals so we could focus on each other and how everyone was doing.
And like you said earlier, we also have the no phone rule at the dinner table. Dad does have an exception that he's allowed to have his phone in case work calls, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard, fast rule in my house. No phones at the dinner table. My kids know it. And
no phones in bed.
And yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Their phones don't even stay in their rooms.
Right.
We don't have
That's
that
what we had
rule.
to do too.
Yep. If that is, that's the only time we're going to consistently have as a family. We're not going to let phones get in the way. Not in my house.
Awesome. So a question. My mom, 93, owns a timeshare in Florida. How can I disclaim this inheritance? She no longer wants to visit Florida and would like to sell the timeshare. Selling will be a very difficult process and it may not sell before she passes away. The timeshare is currently held in her irrevocable trust. I will become the executor of the trust, and I want to address this issue proactively before it becomes urgent. Upon her death, I am concerned about whether family members, none of whom want the timeshare, will be responsible for it, or if they can formally disclaim the property. Can we legally reject the inheritance through a filing with the probate court? Is there a specific time frame in which a disclaimer must be filed for a timeshare? If all heirs disclaim, does the trust remain responsible for the property until it is sold, or would it revert to the timeshare company?
And this is a great question, too.
It is.
Given that the family members don't want it, it's better to dispose of it now. For that reason, leaving it into your family trust is not a good idea. The trustee would be tasked with paying the maintenance fees and the homeowners association fees and the property taxes and other costs associated with its upkeep. The trustee would also be the one tasked with trying to sell it. The global timeshare industry is worth about $35 billion, and the annual maintenance fees have effectively doubled since 2020 to more than $1,500 a year.
Which is actually way less than what we were paying 30 years ago.
It is. I would recommend checking the terms and conditions of the timeshare contract to see if it terminates upon her death. Even better, cut it out of the trust and the family members entirely, and simply designate designate the timeshare company or the resort association or the developer as a beneficiary of your mother's timeshare at the time of her death, which I think is very interesting. This can also be arranged now through a deed-back program if the company in question allows one. Put bluntly, beneficiaries, as you say, can disclaim an inheritance, but leaving it in the trust delays the problem. The trust would still have to pay the bills, and the timeshare company could, in theory, sue the trust for unpaid dues. The contract with the timeshare company does not die with the individual, especially if the asset is left in a trust. And if you let the timeshare fall into foreclosure, that can lead to a long and expensive ordeal and probably frustrating to boot.
Yeah, it sounds very frustrating. Even disclaiming comes with complications. When disclaiming a timeshare in an inheritance, the refusal must be in writing and submitted within a specific time period, usually 9 months after the decedent's death. Timeshares are often criticized as poor investments, but they can be cost-effective for families who use them regularly and genuinely want to go back to the same place every year, and or to trade their timeshare points for other timeshares around the world.
So Randy and I bought one when the kids were young, and it made us pre-plan a vacation every year. Then the maintenance fees started going up, and the kids got busier with sports and such, so we sold it back to the company and made a few bucks. I'm guessing finding anyone to buy this sort of thing today would be about impossible.
I imagine it probably is. This review of data on the timeshare industry found that while most owners are satisfied with their overall membership, roughly 1 in 5 owners regret purchasing a timeshare, citing aggressive sales tactics, difficulties making reservations, and challenges canceling or reselling memberships. I'm surprised it's only 1 in 5.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
I
it
think
seems
the survey missed some people.
it must have missed some people.
They didn't ask us. So.
Right. The researchers agreed with the critics who say timeshares are often sticky, quote, sticky products. Easy to buy, hard to use, or to sell.
Yeah, I need to start asking my clients if they have one of these. A few have talked about getting rid of them, and a few love the membership. So I need to bring that up.
Oh, and there's another whole industry that's come out of this. You heard, that guy that's on the radio all the time.
Oh yeah.
Selling timeshares and getting you out of your timeshare. So
Anyway.
On to the news. 2-legged robots have taken over a job in South Carolina auto parts plant, and that's just a start. Stepping gingerly across the metal floor, it holds its 4-fingered hands at chest level until it reaches its objective, a 25-pound basket of bearing components fresh from a stamping press. The worker uncurls its claw-like fingers, daintily grips the basket by its edges, and walks it over to a conveyor that will send it through an industrial washing machine. About a minute after it grabbed the first basket off the pallet, it returns to grab another. So it goes for 8 hours a day, basket after basket, pallet after pallet.
without complaining.
It seems like the perfect employee.
Or needing to be paid.
Or back pain.
Or back pain, yeah.
A year ago, a person did this job, but now it belongs to a humanoid robot called Digit that was built for grunt work. Its legs angled backwards like an ostrich, increasing its stability and lifting power. Its LED eyes blink to signal to human coworkers where it's directing its attention. Schaeffler, a global manufacturer that makes parts for cars and airplanes, said it plans to deploy more of the robots in the coming months.
Yep. Factories have used stationary robots since the 1960s for tasks such as welding frames and attaching windshields. But advances in batteries, motors, and artificial intelligence have spawned new generations of general-purpose robots that can walk around a plant and perform multiple jobs. According to consulting firm McKinsey, while fewer than 200 humanoids are working in world factories today, up to 5 million could be in place by 2040. That could increase productivity and shift humans into new roles without slashing the manufacturing workforce. Digit is made by Agility, an Oregon-based startup, but there are a growing number of competitors, including humanoids made by Boston Dynamics and Tesla. Agility has tried to distinguish its model by posting social media stunts such as the robots doing backflips and robot boxing matches. I got to check this out.
Yeah, for sure.
That's funny. Over the life of a robot, the cost works out to $10 to $25 an hour, depending on whether a company buys or rents it. Agility's co-founder has said it could eventually fall to $2 to $3 an hour. Entry-level positions at Schaeffler's plant, which isn't unionized, start at $20 an hour, and the factory employs 750 people. Like many manufacturers, Schaeffler can still have trouble finding workers. A large now hiring sign is mounted outside the factory. The plant manager said the person who used to do Digit's job, whichever you want to pronounce it, was transferred to a higher skilled inspection position that offers better career prospects. Management doesn't see the robots as an imminent threat to jobs, particularly those involving assembly tasks.
Well, that's refreshing. So I know scam time. I know that we just talked about a lot of scams, but I would like to quickly list 5 tax scams to watch out for this season. I think it's the appropriate time for that.
Yeah, we may talk a lot about scams, but scams seem to affect Americans more as a whole than almost any single item.
I think we can all attest to that personally. So tax filing season is prime time for scams, and this year could be particularly busy thanks to several new rules for taxpayers to deal with under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the rise of artificial intelligence techniques that give scammers powerful new ways to infiltrate communications. Tax scam perpetrators often use fear, urgency, and misinformation, we talk about this every week, to pry loose personal information or steal money. These can include messages promising a surprise tax refund or demands for immediate payment to the Internal Revenue Service under the threat of arrest or deportation. Please remember that the IRS does not operate this way. They will never demand payment over the phone or text or email. You get something in the mail, right, Randy? That's what we talk about. A recent McAfee survey found that nearly 1 out of 4 people in the U.S. say that they or someone they know has lost money to a tax scam. So here are the 5 common tax scams and what to do to get recourse.
All right, the first one is IRS impersonations. Scammers are increasingly sending realistic-looking emails, texts, or phone calls about account issues that appear to be from the IRS, state tax agencies, or tax software companies. Advanced artificial intelligence allows them to clone voices or create fake videos of IRS agents or even family members to trick victims. AI also improved the quality of the content in phishing emails and phony text messages, making them appear authentic. These messages can claim you owe back taxes and threaten penalties or immediate arrest. Their aim is to get taxpayers to provide their social security numbers, their banking information, and a lot of other things. By clicking on the fake link to an IRS portal that installs malware or steals personal information.
An important thing is that the IRS doesn't initiate contact by email, text, or social media to request personal or financial information or threaten an arrest. Once swindlers get your social security number and the first 4 letters of your last name, they can submit a bogus tax return that maximizes a refund that they will claim for themselves. The real taxpayer won't know that this happened until they get a rejection when they submit their legitimate return to the IRS, or a letter from the IRS saying that their social security number has already been used.
This actually happened to us when somebody stole the military Alpha roster. I was watching the IRS website for our refund, and it showed that it was done, but it didn't come to us. It took a year to get this resolved with the IRS, but all we got was a credit on next year's taxes. But back to the article. To spot red flags, be aware that AI-generated emails and texts are often grammatically perfect but appear too polite, rigid, or repetitive, and lack personal context. Many have links that look legitimate, but when hovered over show a suspicious URL. Look out for any unexpected messages asking you to verify passwords, social security numbers, or one-time passcodes. If you get a call that is suspicious, listen for robotic voices or delays before a voice responds. Both could be a sign of trouble.
I don't know about any of you guys, but I've gotten random texts this year from TurboTax, which I've never even used. Yeah. So saying that, here's my one-time passcode and all this, just like you're talking about, Sherry. So it's like, of course, I didn't click on the links or anything because we've never even used TurboTax. So be
what
careful.
If you had dementia?
I know.
I mean, really,
I know.
It's serious trouble.
They prey on, I know. Number 2, phony refunds or credits. There are bogus tax professionals on TikTok, Instagram, and other social media platforms claiming that they can help you secure large refunds when they help you file your tax return. According to the IRS, these scammers use official-sounding language and give fraudulent advice using taxpayers to claim fake tax credits or credits they aren't eligible for. Their goal? To take a percentage of the fraudulent tax credit or refund before the IRS catches the error. These actions can lead to an IRS audit, penalties, and criminal charges. Any social media posts that claim everyone qualifies for certain tax credits or promises of fast refunds with minimal documentation are potential red flags. The recourse? Freeze all bank and credit card accounts, reverse transactions, and stop unauthorized transfers. Then use IRS Form 14242 to report abusive tax promoters.
Number 3 is ghost tax preparers. Ghost tax preparers are often unlicensed individuals who complete tax returns for a fee but refuse to sign them, leaving taxpayers responsible for false information. They often invent income or claim fake deductions to inflate refunds, leaving the taxpayer liable for fraud. Many charge fees based on a percentage of your refund check, and the methods they accept for payment can be suspicious. Some demand cash payment without providing a receipt, while others have the refunds directed to their own bank account instead of the taxpayer.
I just thought of something. The last few years, I've seen signs advertising these companies all over
The little-
247
yeah.
and all the intersections, and I haven't seen one sign this year of anybody saying, get a huge tax
You're right.
refund.
I haven't seen those either.
I haven't seen one sign, so maybe they're finally
Cracking
doing this
down on
right
them.
and
Yeah.
cracking down on them. Taxpayers should check the license and other credentials of any tax preparer on the IRS Directory of Federal Tax Preparers and make sure they have a preparer tax identification number, or PTIN, which is required to be included on your federal tax return. Also, be sure to review your tax return before signing to make sure it isn't blank, incomplete, or have false claims.
Yep. All right. Number 4 here is debt forgiveness scams. These scams are increasing in volume every year and target taxpayers who owe money to the IRS for a variety of reasons. These may include back income taxes, penalties related to unfiled tax returns, unpaid self-employment taxes, or audit assessments. Many use robot calls to lure victims, and some are unscrupulous tax resolution firms that advertise on radio, TV, and other media platforms. Typically, they promise guaranteed IRS debt forgiveness and settlement, charging upfront fees without delivering debt relief. They use high-pressure tactics to get victims to sign immediately to avoid IRS levies, wage garnishments, and collection actions. These scammers frequently abuse the IRS Offer in Compromise program, which is a tax debt relief option for taxpayers who can't pay the full tax liability due to economic hardships. However, you must be in full compliance with tax filings and not in bankruptcy to be eligible for this program.
Yep. Any firm that guarantees it can settle your tax debt for pennies on the dollar for an upfront fee is a red flag. Here's the recourse. You can restart the debt relief process with the IRS by filling out Form 656 along with Form 433A. If you are accepted, you must file your taxes on time and be compliant with payment requirements for the next 5 years, or the tax debt will be reinstated. Number 5, charity schemes. Many scammers pose as legitimate charities around tax time to solicit donations. They often claim donations are required for certain tax benefits or suggest donations can reduce taxes dollar for dollar, which isn't true since charitable deductions reduce taxable income. These scammers often target high-income taxpayers looking for deductions and steal money and personal information. They often claim they are working with the IRS or use names that sound similar to legitimate charities. They pressure people to make immediate donations via gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency, which are hard to trace.
They may ask for social security numbers, credit card details, and other personal information. They often call from a suspicious phone number, or use a spoof number to conceal their identity. Some even create fake websites to mimic real charities. To guard yourself against fraud, research any charity before making any donation and donate only with a check or credit card, never with a gift card or wire transfer. You can verify a charity at the IRS Tax Exempt Organization Research Tool. Any donation made must be to a qualified 501c3 organization to be deductible.
Very good.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right. Tax refunds are averaging about $775 higher this filing season for Americans who claim the new deductions under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And that sounds like a genuine windfall. The average refund across filers has hit $3,742, and that's up more than 10% from the same point last year. The White House has called the 2026 tax returns the largest tax refund season on record, but there's one catch to this easy to miss. That money in your refund is not a bonus from the government. It's your own cash being returned.
When President Donald Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law on July 4th, 2025, the legislation created several new above-the-line deductions effective retroactive to January 1, 2025. An above-the-line deduction is an adjustment subtracted from your gross income to determine your adjusted gross income, or AGI. A lower AGI is valuable because it can help you qualify for other tax credits and benefits that have lower income limits. The Tax Foundation estimates the law reduced individual income taxes for 2025 by roughly $129 billion with a B.
However, the IRS revealed in August 2025 that it would not update employer withholding tables for tax year 2025. That decision meant employers kept withholding federal income tax at the old, higher rate for the entire year, even though workers now owed less under the new law. Because the IRS did not adjust withholding tables after the law passed, workers generally continued to withhold more taxes from their paychecks than the new law required.
Yep, and the result is a classic overpayment scenario. Your employer took out more than you actually owed, and now the IRS is returning the difference to you as a refund. So if you struggle to make ends meet each month, consider adjusting your tax withholdings with your employer. What's that form called? Is that the W-9?
Yes.
Okay. Be sure that you withhold enough to cover your year-end tax requirement, so you're not having to scrape together funds to pay the tax man every year or next year.
Yep. All right. You can't borrow your way out of debt, but more and more consumers are trying. An increasing number of Americans are turning to balance transfers and personal loans to consolidate and manage debt. It can save them money in the short term, but without a change in the spending habits, that strategy is likely to fail. If you don't fix whatever issues that are causing you to overspend and charge on the credit cards in the first place, then you're just going to start charging again. You can never borrow your way out of debt. Eventually, you're going to have to pay it all back.
Credit card balances reached a record $1.28 trillion with a T at the end of 2025, according to the New York Fed. Many consumers are struggling with higher everyday expenses. Personal loans, which provide a lump sum of money and are typically repaid over 2 to 5 years, this can be a very smart way to consolidate high-interest debt. Rates depend on the borrower's creditworthiness. The average is 12.26% versus 19.58% for credit cards, according to Bankrate.
So I worked for Consumer Credit Counseling Service in Atlanta for 10 years, and we offered a debt management plan that allowed most clients to become debt-free in 3 to 4 years. We were able to do this by negotiating reduced interest rates on the debt so that the payments could actually pay off. And this firm still exists as a nonprofit. This article made me want to look up how borrowing has changed since I worked there. I was wondering if the debt limit for Americans had increased, and I see that it has not. But incomes have increased over the years, allowing the debt limit to increase for individuals. I'm seeing people who are nearing retirement who have a mortgage, 2 car payments, and $10,000 or more in credit card debt. A February forecast from TransUnion, one of the 3 major credit reporting agencies, anticipates that unsecured personal loans will be the primary driver of new borrowing this year.
Yep, but consolidating debt is not a cure-all. A 2023 TransUnion study found that people who consolidated debt reduced their credit card balances by 57% on average, but 18 months later, many borrowers had climbed back up to their previous level of debt. Historically, 14 to 17% of new personal loans have been used to refinance prior personal loans, according to TransUnion. How people respond to stress can help them break the cycle of debt, and so can understanding the marketing and advertising systems designed to encourage spending. Once people have an understanding of the emotions around their spending, they can set realistic expectations for paying down debt.
The key to paying down debt is for the borrower to pick a strategy that they can stick with and then keep chipping away. Nonprofit debt counselors can help negotiate a debt management plan with creditors, which may reduce interest rates and extend repayment term. A personal loan, balance transfer, or other tools may or may not be the right option as part of the bigger plan. Consumers should take a moment, look at the full picture, and choose a solution that builds long-term stability, not just short-term relief.
Yep.
Agreed.
All right. Let's talk about the post office. The U.S. Postal Service told Congress that it needs urgent reforms to avoid running out of cash. The U.S. Postal Service told Congress Tuesday it faces serious financial crisis, and without significant reforms, it will be out of cash in less than a year. Once again, the Postmaster General Steiner told the Oversight Committee that the USPS needs higher stamp prices, the ability to borrow more money, and other reforms. Steiner laid out potential options to cut costs. Among the recommendations were ending the 6-day deliveries, which Congress has already vetoed several other occasions.
I don't get that.
Yeah, and closing post offices or raising first-class mailing prices to $1 or more, up from the current 0.78. The postmaster provided a written testimony contained a statement that read, "The failure to do this would lead to the end of the U.S. Post Office as we now know it."
And it probably goes without saying, but if the U.S. Postal Service ceased operations, major private shipping companies like UPS, FedEx, and DHL would immediately stand to gain significant market share in package delivery. These companies would likely take over the bulk of parcel business, particularly in urban areas. However, they might lack the infrastructure for last mile delivery to remote or rural areas formerly serviced by the USPS, likely leading to significantly higher costs for those locations. Regional carriers like LaserShip and OnTrack would likely see increased demand for regional last mile e-commerce delivery, and likely digital and alternatives and document service companies focusing on digital signatures, electronic billing, and electronic document management would gain from the reduction of physical mail. In a lesser way, companies that provide logistics and technology delivery optimization could see increased demand as private companies scramble to fill the service gap. If this were to happen, there would be some significant challenges ahead for package and mail delivery as we now know it. The current infrastructure is massive, and it would be a challenge for anyone to take this on as a single endeavor. However, the post office has been in need of a major makeover for a very long time.
Yep.
And my thing is, what about people who get all the prescriptions in the mail? I mean, how does that work out? Who's going to want to handle that? I don't know.
When I managed a warehouse, we would use all of the three major shippers, UPS, USPS, and FedEx. And the only time that it was cheaper to use USPS was if the product was less than 3 pounds. In every other case, UPS, FedEx was cheaper and faster to ship the products.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that most people, unless you're shipping letters, are not even using USPS because it's too expensive, and it seems like their plan to fix it is to make it more expensive. While I've worked here at Lifespan, the price of a stamp has risen 4 times. I think they're going to get to the point where they're the same price as their competitors, and they're just going to end up losing the majority of their business.
Makes sense.
Very possible.
Very good. Okay, older women are set to inherit $54 trillion in a great wealth transfer to widowed spouses. For many married women, one of the biggest financial transitions of their lives will come when it's least welcome after the death of their spouse. It's a fact that women on average live longer than men. Right now, the difference in longevity between men and women is 4.9 years. Men on average live 76.5 years, and women live 81.4. The age gap does narrow a little if both spouses live to age 65, but still the male usually dies sooner. So sorry, Randy.
Yeah. Thanks.
That difference.
I'm going to outlive you, just so you know.
Okay.
Right. Just for saying that.
For
There you
spite.
go. That difference in lifespan means women are expected to receive most of the spouse-to-spouse wealth that gets passed on during the so-called great wealth transfer. And that great wealth transfer, if you're not familiar with that term, is a period of years between 2024 and 2048 when an estimated $124 trillion of assets will be passed on largely by baby boomers, those born between 1946 to 1964.
Yep. When it comes to women in these older generations, we see that that it is common for couples to have the husband managing the investments, pay the bills, and long-term financial planning. However, that lack of knowledge can leave the surviving spouse feeling overwhelmed at an already difficult time. In other words, before you reach that point, it's worth at least knowing where the assets are held, how income is generated, and who to call with questions. The goal is not to make everyone a financial expert, but to ensure that the surviving spouse has the familiarity and the confidence to navigate this transition.
When I do reviews this year, I am asking everyone if they have a will, power of attorney, and advance directive, and many do not. We mentioned this last week that we have a program called Vanilla that we can share with you for free, where you can complete these documents. So please call us if you want the link to this site, and we are not going to bother you and harass you and follow up with you. We'll just send you the site link.
Yeah, this is not just for our clients either. So
Right.
just call us.
Yep. While the particulars of what any widow faces financially depend on the specifics of their situation, there are a couple of things most widows will face, whether or not they have significant assets. Your cash flow may be impacted almost immediately. Assuming both spouses were receiving Social Security, the surviving spouse generally keeps the larger of the two benefits, and the smaller one goes away. Depending on the amount of the smaller one, that could result in a notable decrease in overall income. Additionally, if the deceased spouse had a pension, income from it may change depending on the specifics of the pension plan. If it includes survivor benefits, the amount could be lower than what your spouse was receiving, or it could involve a lump sum payout. In general, advisors say surviving spouses end up spending less than they did as a couple, but that it doesn't drop by half when one spouse dies.
Widowed spouses should be prepared for their tax situation to change as well. While you can still file a joint tax return for the year in which your spouse died, you will typically end up being taxed as a single filer after that unless you have a dependent child. Single filers generally face less favorable tax brackets, a smaller standard deduction, and lower income thresholds for certain or other tax breaks. For 2026, the standard deduction for married couples filing jointly is $32,000. For a single filer, $16,100. Of course, the lower amount could mean it's more beneficial to itemize your deductions. That is allowed. Deductions such as mortgage interest, state and local taxes, charitable donations, and certain medical costs could total more than the standard deduction.
So I just thought of something else we need to mention here. So last year, I had a number of clients pass, and their spouse, their wife, was the beneficiary. So all the accounts transferred to the wife, and I would meet with them, and most of them would come to me very quickly after the spouse passed, as soon as we could get the accounts transferred over so they could have a review, because they never sat in on appointments. They never understood what we were doing. They've never invested money before. It was like a total new thing. And I would ask them and tell them, I would ask them about credit card debt that their spouse had before they died. And they thought they owed that money.
Yeah.
They thought they had to pay those bills off with the benefits that they received when their spouse passed. And I said, those accounts were in their name. They're not in your name. You don't owe that money. You just send a letter to the credit card company and send a death certificate and say, he is not here anymore. He cannot pay this bill. And they will just write it off. But I had one person that I did not get to fast enough, and she already had paid off her husband's credit card debt after he died because she thought she had to. So please communicate with your family about this, because it's really important to not pay off debt you don't owe and keep that money and save it for your future.
That's right. Good advice, Sherry. All right, Jonathan, this article's for you. All right.
Perfect.
These parents did the impossible, retired in their 30s while raising young kids. A Canadian couple, Chrissy Shin and Bruce Lung, were earning a combined $160,000 from their engineering jobs when they retired in their early 30s with a $1 million portfolio. For years, they lived nomadically, spending time in some high-cost countries that offset time in low-cost countries. While many would assume that the lifestyle had to be incompatible with having a baby, they carried on after their son was born in 2023 using credit card points and free home exchanges. Defying the shocking estimates of how much it costs to raise a child in the United States to age 18, more than $300,000 according to the USDA, they stayed retired after having a baby by opting out of many of the costs associated with having a family, which they discussed in their new book, Parent Like a Millionaire. They have kept their annual expenses with the child to about $65,000 to $70,000. For Shin, who grew up in the poor rural China, this buys more than a comfortable lifestyle for them.
Parents often get roped into expenses that add little value to their lives because they see it all as being part of giving their child the best, Shin said. This is only made worse by the fact that everything in North America is so expensive. One of the most impactful decisions she and her husband made was to continue renting a one-bedroom apartment while their child is small and holding off on renting a larger space rather than using their money to buy a home, as many new parents do. In their book, they wrote, the longer they can live in the current home and only upgrade the space as your child grows, the more money you save and can invest in a portfolio that pays for your living expenses. And Shin and Lung live in areas with public transit, so they do not have to buy and maintain a car. And they buy their baby stuff secondhand, which I did too, which is a deal. Shin bought a used bassinet, which retails for $300 new for $30, for example. Their spending on their son in his first year was less than one-third of the USDA's $17,500 estimated annual cost. According to Shin, kids are definitely not cheap, but they're not as expensive as North American society makes them out to be. By keeping their major expenses low, especially housing and transportation, Shin and Lung's net worth has grown to about $2.9 million in the decade after leaving their day jobs to run their site, Millennial Revolution, and write books.
Other parents agree that with an early enough start on investing, different versions of financial independence can be possible by the time a person is raising a family. Now, this style of living is not for everyone, so this family story that we're about to share might be a little more achievable for those hoping to cut down on your expenses. Andy Hill was working 50-hour weeks and regularly traveling for his job. Despite earning a household income of $130,000, his and his wife's net worth was negative due to student loans, a car loan, and an underwater mortgage. The newlyweds decided they needed a change before having kids. They decided they wanted to have more time with their future family and not work as much. With that decision, Hill and his wife went through the difficult transition of cutting their spending to save and invest about 50% of their income over the following decade, even after they had 2 kids. In 10 years, their investable assets had grown to about $500,000, and their net worth had increased to about $1 million, a point at which they determined they could stop saving for retirement and both worked 3 days a week to support their day-to-day expenses. Hill was following a typical playbook for FIRE, quote, FIRE. That's an acronym for Financial Independence, Retire Early. It's a movement called FIRE. As the concept gained traction among high-income workers who closely follow their personal finances, it had largely been written off as an impossible for those with costly responsibility of supporting kids, especially if they intended to help pay for college.
Yet the benefits of early financial independence are obvious to American parents who are more stressed than other adults, due in part to financial strain and time demands. Many families struggle to afford basic needs like housing, childcare, health insurance, groceries, and utilities. Lack of support, both structurally and culturally, for families has been a factor leading adults to delay having children or to have fewer children than they want. Such issues can be, at least in some cases, mitigated by having wealth.
Yep. A new generation of money-minded parents is now urging young people who want to start families to map out a path to early financial independence so they can avoid the trap that many people with kids end up in. And that trap is having too little time and too little money. They argue that some degree of FIRE is achievable for many parents if they start investing early enough to let the decades of compounding work in their family's favor. Already, people have started investing at younger ages as personal finance education becomes more common in the United States, and 30 states now require it. And more Americans are seeking paths outside of their jobs to achieve their goals, and incomes fail to keep up with the cost of living. While raising kids has its cost, financial planner and author Jackie Cummings Koshy noted that some dinks, the term for households with dual income and no kids, tend to spend way more than households with 2 kids. Koshy, a single parent herself, retired with $1.2 million portfolio at age 49 after aggressively investing for 15 years, supported herself and her teen daughter on about $40,000 to $45,000 during that time, and saved the other 40% of her income. Koshy says that the broad statement that you can't reach FIRE with kids is just not true.
Something that really helped us in our early years was to eliminate debt, buying only fixer-upper houses and driving used cars. I bought all my clothes at a thrift store, and we didn't spend money on anything we didn't need. We rarely ate out, as we were spending all of our excess earnings on fixing up a house to increase the value. We worked hard and paid it off. I see young people today that want everything new, and that is just not usually going to be a good financial move. Being debt-free takes so much stress off your life and helps you save. The biggest mistake I made was studying the wrong thing in college. I thought the advisors were there to help me, but they basically sold me on a worthless degree. I would encourage young people today to look at the opportunity of going to a technical college in their junior and senior years of high school to get a jump start. It's not for everyone, but a worthless degree in student loan debt is horrible. Thankfully, college was cheap back in the days when I went, and I could work a part-time job and just pay cash. It just blows my mind.
Not so cheap anymore. The median financial assets of couples with children in the U.S. were $62,500 in 2022, according to the most recent data from the Federal Reserve, well below the numbers needed for meaningful financial independence.
Yep. All right, shifting gears. Do you always feel like you can't get ahead? You've got to stop voluntarily being a victim of your lack of money. You must take a stand and decide to take control of your money and be willing to do the right things for yourself and your family when everyone else is doing the wrong things. What am I talking about? How about this as a few examples? The average American spends about $1,100 a year on coffee. Some say that it's a small price to pay for sanity, but for a fraction of that cost, you could buy a nice coffee maker and brew it at home. And Newsweek reported that millennials are willing to spend $7 on a coffee because it makes them happy. And that habit could cost you more than $2,500 a year.
That's just crazy.
Coffee is the new smoking.
It is. Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's real money. And Americans are embracing food delivery as the go-to solution for a busy day, late night cravings, and everything in between. 40% of Gen Zs and millennials order food from delivery apps at least once per
Oh my
week.
gosh.
Gen X and baby boomers do as well, but not quite as much. And for the sake of trivia, what would you think is the most ordered food in the U.S.? Would it be pizza, burgers, Chinese, other? What do you think it is, guys?
Pizza.
I would think pizza.
No,
I think it's probably some sort of side, like a soda or fries,
it's fries. It's French fries.
What?
French fries
It's French
is the
fries.
big
The number one.
What?
because it comes with everything, right? Like,
Oh,
you get-
yeah,
you get
because that's
fri-
the side.
it's-
that's the universal side. It comes with burgers. Comes with
No, it's just French fries. Fries
Oh, just
being
on
delivered.
their own.
And then cheese quesadilla is the second one,
okay.
and then chicken strips or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And then
So
pizza.
not the ones you would think.
Yeah,
But you
exactly.
can actually, they're saying they actually just order
French fries.
and are
Oh.
paying how much for that?
Probably
Yes.
$47 for by the time you do fees and tips and
But we're talking. That's what we're talking about here. That's a convenience, right? That comes at a price. The survey by Upgraded Points shows that the average American spends over $1,566 annually on food delivery service.
Oh, that's
With
crazy.
each order costing about $35.40.
I'm going to interject right here.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing this. My son is playing, he's in soccer season. So we've been over in North Macon a lot by where Mellow Mushroom is. Mellow Mushroom has got a happy hour special. If you've got a big family or even not, where they are selling small cheese pizzas for $5.
Huh.
$5. So we go in there, we all order water. And my wife gets a beer. She has to have her beer. But other than that, we'll get like 4 or 5 small cheese pizzas and take like half of it home. And we get out of there for like $32.
Oh, wow.
It is the best deal. And we've been doing it like multiple times a week for weeks now.
What
so anyway,
place is this?
is Mellow Mushroom, which has incredible pizza.
Yes.
Where's Mellow Mushroom in Macon?
So it's on Bowman Road.
Okay.
Up there off Bass.
Okay.
They probably are hoping that you'll order pepperoni and extra
Right.
cheese and all this stuff, but we just stick to the plain cheese.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, I tipped them very well because it's probably half the cost it would be otherwise if
and
it was
going
not
anywhere else.
right. So anyway, I had to interject and put the Mellow Mushroom and make probably Warner Robins does it too. I don't know, but
I'm sure.
I used to actually live with a family that would order delivery from places that were less than a mile away.
that's so stupid.
It got to the point where I just offered to pick up the food instead of them paying $15 plus tip to have food delivered.
And it's pure laziness.
It wasn't even my money, and it bothered me that they were spending it that way. It cost me a whopping 10 cents of gas and 6 minutes of time to pick up that food.
Oh my gosh.
And when you break it down like that, they're paying $150 plus per hour to have their food delivered.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Good math.
That's
Corey.
right. But people think it's just a few dollars here and a few dollars there, and it's no big deal. But it all adds up.
In a big way.
Rounding out the list, I would add dining out, buying bottled water, unused subscriptions, and pre-cut vegetables and fruit, which can cost up to 40% more than the whole item, and impulse buying. Ironically, a report from CBS News reports that approximately 300% of Americans, or it should have been 30%,
I was gonna say,
have no
does that even mean?
have no dedicated emergency savings. And of course, that number varies slightly depending on the survey that you look at, with 59% unable to cover a $1,000 emergency expense using their savings. And younger generations with lower income households are most likely to have zero savings.
So we talk about this all the time. Make a budget and live within it. Your budget needs to have roots in personal responsibility, accountability, confidence in yourself, and your own integrity to stick to it. Why? Because it will set a standard for which way you live your life. It puts others on notice that you are not willing to waste your money on frivolous items that do not get you to the next level in life. And we are not talking about a lower level of life. We should all strive for a higher level for our families. As individuals, we all need to have boundaries. And the sooner we decide what those boundaries are, the sooner we can start making progress toward achieving long-range goals.
Yeah. Maybe your goals include starting your own business, retiring from your current job at a certain age, funding your kids' or grandkids' college. There are unlimited goals you could choose to set your focus on, and it could be more than one. But once you have your goals in place, an established budget, your standards established, you can achieve things you never thought possible.
Yeah. There's a commercial on TV that drives me crazy. And it's a couple of ladies that get new credit cards, and they're arguing over who's going to pick up the dinner bill because they each want to get the reward points, right? So reward points are worth so little. Look, if you don't have $1,000 in your savings to cover an emergency, you should never pick up the tab. So take control over your money and set your boundaries, and you can change the trajectory of your financial life.
Agreed.
And we're down to the last 30 seconds. Go ahead, Jonathan.
It's just I'm going to put my weekly blurb out there.
Yeah.
We've got 3 weeks. I still have clients actively funding 2025 IRAs. Right now, we only have 3 weeks left to do it, but that doesn't mean it's too late. It's not too late at all. In fact, this week, 3 or 4 people called and asked for for us to fund their 2025 accounts. You got till April 15th. Everybody have a great weekend.
Fantastic.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. You can learn more about them by visiting their website, retirerelax.com. And if you have a question or a topic that you would like them to cover in next week's broadcast, you can email Randy at rfmoney.com. They look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.